Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Growing Orchids in Jamaica. In case you are new and you want to see how I grow orchids in Jamaica, just hit that subscribe button. Well, guys, we have just gone through our first tropical storm for the year in the hurricane season, Tropical Storm Elsa. If you want to see what Tropical Storm Elsa did to my orchid, just stay tuned. I am really saddened by the impact of Tropical Storm Elsa, especially on some of our Caribbean friends, because there were actually 3 deaths in the Caribbean. St. Lucia was one of those islands that was impacted, and my heart really goes out for my friends. Haiti was also impacted negatively, Dominican Republic, Barbados, and also in the United States, some parts of Florida was impacted negatively by Tropical Storm Elsa. And not to mention us here in Jamaica, guys, we got a lot of wind, we got a lot of water, and of course you know that too much wind, too much water will have negative impact. The impact of this one, even though it's the first in the season, was not overly negative for us. And so I would have shown you how I remove my hanging plants and so forth, so that I preserve them, because the truth is you would have spent a lot of money to purchase your plants and to grow them, and you really have the passion for it and the love for it, and so you want to protect them as you go along, guys. And the wind is here. Whew. We had flooding in some of our lower lying areas on the island, and the persons were displaced in terms of their living condition. Some persons had to go into shelters, but luckily most of us were not negatively impacted. It's gonna take some time for us to get back to normal, to where we want to be, where we were. And of course, sometimes these things happen to really create sort of purge, because of course, while I am sitting here under my almond tree and I am relaxing and just enjoying the cool breeze and the birds chirping and the plants around me, if you notice this dendrobium right here, which is blooming beautifully, and I'm just so enjoying it. So while I am doing that, it is good that I'm able to do that, especially after just going through that storm. You would have noticed too that I have replaced a number of the plants under the almond tree. Guys, my almond tree is taking back its shape, because those plants that I have under the almond tree, I have replaced some of them. A lot of them are losing their blooms now because I've lost the bloom of some, because of course most of them have been blooming for some time, and some of them were actually out in the rain. Luckily though, my vandas were not negatively impacted, and they really like to be watered a lot, and so they really enjoyed the rain, and luckily they never toppled over. I am so grateful for that, guys, that they did not topple over. After the storm and returning to normal, one of the main things that I did, I actually took up back the plants, especially those that were placed on the ground, because you don't want them to be there for too long, because if they are there for too long, then bacteria and all kind of things, fungal growth, all kind of things are going to start taking set on them, and you do not want that. Suffered, well, not really a loss of a plant, but I suffered one damage to one plant. Look what Elsa did, guys. Let me show it to you here, guys. Now this one, it was on the ground, and I noticed perhaps because of the rain and the amount of water and no sun, it actually got some spores on the underleaf. I sprayed it, so I'm actually losing those leaves, but the plant itself is not dead. And I've actually sprayed it, guys. What I'm actually gonna be doing, I am going to be repotting this plant because I do not want to lose it. So this is basically the only major damage that I have gotten coming out of Elsa. But everything else, they managed it well, and I basically took them up. I've used a systemic fungicide, which I have been using for a little while now. So I have been using the Phyton 27, which I find very effective. It's actually a systemic bactericide and fungicide, and it really works wonders. You only use it at a rate of 3 milliliter per gallon, so you don't need to use a whole lot when you're using this. And that is what I sprayed with immediately after the impact of Elsa and the dumping of the water on us. While I sprayed with the fungicide, I also used an insecticide. So I basically use a caprid, guys, and this too is systemic in action, and it is really good for white flies. It is good for thrips, aphid, leaf miner, and scales, because a lot of us orchid growers have really been impacted negatively by scales on our plants, and this is really good for it, and this is what I use. But while I use that, it is also important that our water is balanced in terms of its alkalinity. And so there are different chemicals on the market that we can use to whether reduce or increase the alkalinity of the water depending on where you are. Because of that, sometimes we will add a little 20-20-20, which will help balance the alkalinity of the solution, because basically the plant will take up the fertilizer or whatever it is that we use best at a pH of around 5.5, somewhere thereabout. So you don't want it to be higher than that or lower than that, because if it is lower than that, then it's going to be a little acidic, and you don't want it to be too alkaline. So you want to strike that balance. So I use 1 teaspoon of 20-20-20 to my mix when I am spraying. Of course, you know, returning to normal is going to take some time, and especially when you have to juggle what you do at home with your 9-to-5 job and so forth. So this is what it looks like now, guys, under the almond tree. I have replaced some of the plants. I'm losing some of the blooms. Yes, guys, I'm losing some of my blooms, but nevertheless, I had to replace them. And this one is a new one that I added under the almond tree. This is let me show you the tag for this one, because it's a Oncidium called a Burr Guam Chin Rogue Ruby. So this is a tag for this one. Right. And this one is actually putting on a splendid show. It has on 2 beautiful, hefty looking spikes. Let me show you them. Right, so this is what is happening with this one, guys. Right, and the inflorescences are extremely long. Right, yep, and this Myrmecactylea is still blooming under the almond tree here, guys. And I tell you, this one is a star plant, you know, because it has been blooming for so long. This one has been blooming for about 3 months now, because we're in July, and I featured this one in May. And yes, it's a Dendrobium Hawaii Spectacular. It has lost some of the flower, but it continues to bloom and continue to look beautiful, and I can see where it actually loves being under the almond tree. I've added another one to the almond tree, guys. This one here don't have the ID, however it is one of Hamlin's cross. is. I hope you're seeing it quite nicely, quite beautifully, and it can really put on a nice show, guys. This is a small bloom in comparison to the cluster that it gives from time to time. And I've replaced one of the plants that I had on the bench under the almond tree with this beautiful dendrobium, which I do not presently have the ID for. I will have to search for the ID for it. And just look at the spike. It is so long, guys. It is a beautiful one right here under the almond tree on the bench, and it's a beautiful day. The sun is shining, the breeze is blowing, the wind chime is doing its thing, and we just have to be grateful, guys, for the fact that we are able to enjoy all of these beauties, especially after what we've just been through in terms of the storm. So yes, guys, this is what is happening right here under my almond tree. There aren't a lot of blooms right now under the almond tree, but I have replaced a lot of the plants, as you will see right here. So I didn't get any damage in relation to the wind destroying the plants that are hanging on this tree here that I call my native orchid tree. And this is how they look right after the storm has passed. Yes, guys. So I didn't get much damage. I don't have much blooms, but they are still looking beautiful. So I'm gonna take these and now put them back into their original position. Okay, so I did secure it below, but now I am putting it back where it belongs. And so I have put back some of the plants on the bench right here in this area. Now these that I have here, I have not completely put them back, and I've also put on back the shade cloth that I have here. It's not put on properly, but at least not to shock the plants with the extra sun that they would have been getting. So I had to just quickly pull it back on, and I've replaced some of the plants. I definitely will get somebody to help me to do it properly. The plants that I have hanging here, I think I might leave them there. I believe they will be happy in this little spot, just hanging here on the fencing material. So this is how I have them now, and I'm gonna be fixing this area nicely so that they can stay here. So I won't necessarily have them under the 50% shade mesh, but they will still get some shade based on where they are. I have made an effort to put them back under the tree and in their position that they were. My staghorn fern is back up. Yes, guys, it's back up where it belonged. And so this area is taking back its shape. And of course, I didn't lose any of my blooms here. Yes. And so they are still actually blooming. We got a lot of rain, but of course immediately after the rain I actually did some spraying to preserve whatever blooms that I would have had. The oncidiums, guys, are still on the ground, but the only thing that happened, I had one or so that was turned over, and that was basically it. So the damage was really minimal, and so I will be putting these back in their position, or perhaps I'll just change how I have them in this little area. So I did not remove these from here because they would have been protected actually from the tower that I have the vandals on, which is right here. So this provided some shelter for them, and so I did not have to remove them from here. Right, so these are my files that I have here, and I really did not remove them. However, there were some plants that I had taken up and I had put them on the veranda to secure them, and those plants, I have now put them back in their position on the almond tree. The plants I have here that I had put low, they are still low because I'm going to need some help to lift them and just to put them back up. But just to show you guys that they did not suffer any damage, any at all, because of the rain or the wind. Some things are still not in place yet, and in time I will do that, but because you have been asking for an update, I decided to do this update today. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and so you never miss another video, please subscribe to my channel, and as we say in Jamaica, just follow back on me. This is the Orchid Duck, and I am growing orchids in Manchester, Jamaica.